You know what I've been playing a lot lately? Well, in all honesty, there's quite a lot I've been playing. There's Sonic Mania, Uncharted Lost Legacy, Severed, and Binding of Isaac again. But on top of all these absolute phantom rubies, I've also been playing something else. Something that was sent to me from a small team known as 14 Hour Productions that recently made its way onto Steam, and get this, it's free. Yep, your favourite price. I'll leave a link in the comments section and description of this video for you to download and play yourself. Because not only is Dead Horizon free, it's bloody good. Okay, sure, the whole game only lasts like 10 minutes or so and it's played by using nothing but the mouse. But seriously, those 10 minutes will stick with you. The game's perfect pixel art style, its fantastic chiptune sounding music, its brilliant but obviously simple gameplay, and best of all, the story. Like I said, the game's only about 10 minutes long, but when you think about it, that's all it needs to be. I highly suggest you go and check it out, especially if you're a fan of this game. Which I am. I remember when I started collecting pretty much every video game console and video game I could get my hands on back when boot fairs were full of this stuff and they cost next to nothing. One day I finally picked myself up an NES with an awesome bundle of games, one of which was obviously this game. A game so simple that it's almost criminal to even call it a game. However, for myself, and I'm sure plenty of other gamers watching this that owned one of these bad boys at some point in their life, it never felt cheap. There was something about Wild Gunman that stuck with me, and if I remember correctly, it was one of the first games I went out of my way to look into the history of by searching around online, which by the way was on a dial-up Dreamcast. Gah, a simpler time. Thanks Dead Horizon, not for only finally breaking the complete history Nintendo cherry, but also for reminding me of one of the first retro games I ever owned that made me want to explore the history of a particular franchise. So, join me as we dip our toes into the pool that is Nintendo Complete Histories with Wild Gunman, the game that at first glance is perhaps nothing more than a tech demo on a cartridge, but as you will soon see, it actually has a pretty decent legacy behind it. Welcome to Slope's Game Room.
For instance, signs, sick, spirits, bad, funny, first.
Ah, who remembers this scene from Back to the Future Part 2? The part of the movie when Marty McFly travels 30 years into the future to October 21st, 2015, where, for some reason, people wore bits of plastic on their faces. It was here that he saw the infamous Wild Gunman versus Arcade Machine and showed off his mad gunman skills.
You mean you have to use your hands? That's like a baby's toy.
Nice going, McFly. He must have had a lot of practice on this machine, right? Well, actually, the arcade machine was never distributed, unlike other Nintendo vs. arcade machines like Hogan's Alley, Dr. Mario, Balloon Fight and Wrecking Crew. And this movie was the only time it was ever seen. Okay then, fair enough, perhaps he just put a lot of practice in on that classic NES cartridge. Again, that's probably unlikely, because 30 years prior, on October 26, 1985, Wild Gunman had only been out for 1 week. Plus, the NES wasn't even popular at this point in the States. Perhaps he imported it from Japan on the Famicom? Yeah, it's a bit of a stretch, don't you think? Either way, futuristic sequels from the past isn't where we're going to be starting off this classic Nintendo journey. Because, in my opinion, I think we're in fact getting a little ahead of ourselves. So, let's go back to the beginning. Gunpei Yokoi, emphasis on the gun. This guy was one of the most important guys at Nintendo. Born in 1941, he joined the Big N at the age of 24 in 1965 to help maintain the assembly line machines used to manufacture Nintendo's then famous Hanafuda cards. It was here that Gunpei in his spare time created a small extendable arm toy, and head honcho at Nintendo took note. He liked what he saw, and he quickly ordered Gunpei to turn his creation into a toy for that year's Christmas break. So he did, and it was a huge success. This little extendable arm thing helped put Mr. Yokoi in the Nintendo spotlight, and he ended up becoming responsible for several of the company's most noticeable creations, leading all the way up to his unfortunate death on October the 4th, 1997. But back when the company was constantly thinking about what the next big toy could be, gun games constantly made their way onto the production line, so much so that the previously mentioned laser clay shooting system looked like it could possibly be Nintendo's future. But, as you know, because you've all watched my video explaining the situation in more detail, that wasn't the case. However, only 1 year after this unfortunate financial failure, Gunpei had another crack at a gun game, and this time it was with far greater success.
After the eyes flash on the screen, shoot. Put your pistol in the holster and prepare to draw.
For anybody that's played that NES classic game, this should seem very familiar. You wait for the cowboy's eyes to flash, which indicates he's about to shoot you, and you attempt to shoot him first. Depending on how quickly you do this, one of two clips will play. One where you, or at least your virtual self, will lose a life, or another where the cowboy dies. In total, there are 4 cowboys to kill, as seen here by the movie poster. Which may sound short, but hey, give it a break. It's an arcade game of sorts. An arcade game of sorts that people had never seen before. It's obvious to see why this game did so bloody well for Nintendo. An actual real-life actor is about to shoot directly at you, and you have to actually interact as quickly as you can. It's you or him. From what I can tell, Wild Gunman is the first ever full-motion video game ever released, and I don't think it's too far-fetched to imagine a large crowd gathering around this arcade cabinet watching as people flinch, duck, or even scream as they experience this new type of immersive gameplay that Gunpei and his team had unleashed into the arcades. Don't laugh, it was a different time back then. A good example of this is the 1903, possibly first ever Western movie, The Great Train Robbery, where in the final scene one of the robbers would unload 6 bullets directly at the audience. It might not seem like much now, but this silent movie scene with the help of a pounding piano made moviegoers scream and duck for cover before reminding themselves it's just a movie. And then they would burst into fits of laughter and want to watch it again. A couple more of these machines were made after the success of this one. Firstly, their shooting trainer. Nothing too special in all honesty. You got a static western background with randomly generated white bottles popping up all over the place which you need to shoot. And then finally you've got Fascination, a game that could possibly get its own episode entirely as part of my Quick Shoot series. This is bloody weird. Your job is to shoot fully clothed Swedish models with a rifle until they eventually become naked. The craziest thing about all this is that even though you will never find one of these systems nowadays, it's believed that the unit was made for the sole purpose to attract male reporters to review Wild Gunman. And crazier still, it actually works. Now, weird games where you shoot women naked aside, Wild Gunman, in the eyes of Nintendo, became something of a popular franchise in Japan that the company attempted to pay homage to at every possible instance. Firstly, you've got the toys, And obviously you've got the classic Famicom and NES game. Now, even though the game was something completely new for American, Canadian and European gamers, in Japan it was just the next installment in the series. So, what is the game actually like? As I said earlier, it's hardly a game at all. There really isn't much here, but hidden beneath the bare bones game is something incredibly special that any fan of that original NES, and I know there's a lot of you out there, needs to get. The main game, just like the arcade cabinet, finds a bandit walking onto the screen. Eventually you see his eyes flash and you gotta shoot him first. There are 5 cowboys in total, and the more you play it, the more you get used to their repetitive patterns. Obviously, every time you get shot, you lose a life. Every time you shoot before the eyes flash, you also lose a life. There are a couple of extra modes found in this cartridge, such as a sort of expert mode where you have to shoot 2 bandits at the same time, and an awesome shoot whatever you see mode where you no longer have to wait to be told when to shoot and instead just shoot every bad guy that pops up in the saloon. Honestly, I've shown you everything the game has to offer in this tiny little review. It might not sound like much, but with its incredibly huge sprites, its synthesized voice, the overall feeling of being a cowboy, especially if you get the amazing Famicom exclusive gun, and the fact that you have to actually own the original due to it not working on newer tellies, what you got here is one of the most classic 8-bit Nintendo games ever, which in my opinion helps shape what makes this system so memorable. The legacy of Wild Gunman continued as it appeared a couple more times in both WarioWare Inc. Mega Micro games and obviously various Smash Bros games too. Nintendo even re-released the game on the Virtual Console on Back to the Future Day to celebrate that popular scene. And even though I doubt we will ever see a sequel from Nintendo in this series, like I said earlier, Dead Horizon has already pushed this game as far as it can possibly go. I am thrilled that Nintendo are still showing off one of their earliest ever games in some of their more recent ones. Hopefully they continue to do so, and until then, I'm just going to keep playing this. Hey there guys, thanks for watching the video. It's the part of the video where I say a massive shout out to all of my Patreons, with a special shout out going to Matthew Ritter, Ryan Burford, Phil Lowlins, Ian A. Chapman, Creamy Elephant, James Loveridge, Casey Garner, Blitz, Hedgie, Ben Hall, Taylor Ullman, Team Not Crash, Downright Superb, and Tiago Piera dos Santos Silva. If you want to be part of the Patreon list, see stuff like this early, see what I'm working on, be part of the Discord chat, as well as plenty of other perks, then please go and check out my Patreon by clicking the link that you see on the screen. Don't forget to subscribe, check out previous complete history videos, and until next time, this is DJ Slope signing out, and hopefully I'll see you all next time.